Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Well, I know at the beginning of every single episode, I always say that this is going to be a huge episode. This is going to be a huge episode. Well, I tell you what, this is going to be a massive episode on the 69 Roadrunner convertible. And the reason for that is that we are going to get this car blasted. We're going to finish sectioning in our rear quarters, get those welded in, and then we are going to be epoxying the entire car. All of these panels here, which are fresh back from the blaster and in excellent shape, might I add. We've also got the fenders, we've got the deck lid, which still needs to get blasted. We've got a bunch of brand new parts still over there in boxes. But by the end of this episode, this car will be completely put back together, metal-wise, and it's all going to be one color in epoxy. So it's gonna take me a little bit longer to get out, but please bear with me, okay? There's a lot that's gonna happen here over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so, as you guys will see. So I just picked up these parts on the blaster and overall pretty happy. We do have some damage that we're gonna have to assess, but I'll show you guys that here in just a second. Our hinges are excellent. Our latch support's excellent. And you know, looking at the doors, there's a couple little tiny issues, but just pinholes. Now what you'll find on a lot of these older Mopars, or really these older cars, where this laps over and it's attached to the inside of the door shell here, is that the entire bottom side of this will be rusted out, and this thing is absolutely amazing. I'm not gonna lie. There's no major dents, there's no major anything. We've got a few pinholes here, and we're just gonna go ahead, hook up the welder on some low heat, fill those in, grind them flush, and you'll never be able to tell. This door, on the other hand, is like completely mint, which again just kind of blows me away. These doors are definitely worth quite a bit of money as they sit here, just being completely original. But they turned out absolutely beautiful, and they are ready to be prepped out and put into epoxy. Now the fenders, on the other hand, are a little bit different story. When you look about from here back, on both of them, they look really, really nice. And honestly, the passenger side is in pretty good shape. We've got a couple little dings here and there that we're gonna have to address. However, this driver's side has some issues going on here. And I've put them side by side so you guys can really see the difference. First and foremost, the things that'll jump out at you. Right here, we've got some old stud welds, right? Where this thing was likely caved in. And they did the old cave and pave, right, where you pop it out just enough to at least get the shape back, you keep it below the rest of the surface, and then you just pave it with Bondo or body filler. This is absolutely what they did down here. You guys can see, I mean, the difference in the contour of both of those. Now I am going to try to hammer dolly that out. I'm going to have to attach my studs to that and actually pop it out, but we're going to try to bring it really close back to shape, and hopefully we can work that out. These fenders are pretty expensive, the magnitude of probably 600, 800 bucks a piece. So any money that we can save in doing this will be well worth it. So it's at least worth a shot. But the insides are really nice. Now, the blaster did have a hell of a time getting all of the factory undercoating off. He said in some areas it was like 3 inches plus thick, especially the stuff up in the front towards like the front of the headlight buckets. Up in here, it's really caked in there, so we'll do the best we can to get it all out. But yeah, we can get these things prepped out into epoxy as well. Now, when I say prepped out, there's a few different ways that you guys can do this. Now you can take, because when it comes back from the blaster, and this goes for grit blasting or you know, dustless blasting, that's what I was looking for. It's gonna come back and it's gonna have that rough texture on it, okay? Now you don't wanna just go spraying epoxy over the top of it, because this is like the consistency of like 60 grit sandpaper, but prepping it out is extremely easy. You can actually just take some 80 grit on a DA, or you can do what I like to do, and that's just take a wire wheel. Now, I'm not talking about anything fancy whatsoever. These are from the local Harbor Freight. We've got some 4-inch wheels here. T-Bone requested that I pick him up some for the drill. He's a little bit scared to use the grinder yet, which is fine. But so he's gonna be out here helping me prep out some of the hard to reach places with those smaller ones. But literally, guys, all you do is you just touch this thing with the wire wheel and it completely smooths it out. You can see the difference there where it almost looks polished. You can really see down there kind of in the sunlight. But you want to take all that grit off there. And really, at that point, well, first we got to correct these pinholes here. We'll grind those flush. and then we'll wheel the entire surface. We'll flip it over, we'll do the other side. And the only other prep that I do, guys, is that you can hit it with a wax and grease at that point. And then I also like to use these Axo Nobel auto prep pre-treatment wipes. They're really expensive, to be honest, but they do last a very long time. I want to say it's like 150 bucks for 25 of these. But if you guys, for example, if we finish this out today, we wheeled this out, you know, in climates where it's really humid or something like that, you can get some flash rusting and things of that nature. If you don't immediately throw it into epoxy, this stuff will help buy you some time, but it's always really good to help prep that metal with those wipes as well. So ain't nothing to it but to do it, guys. So my rack space is a little low in terms of capacity for hanging parts, because we are not going to set up the full-blown paint booth to do this. We'll just get these doors prepped out first, hang those on the racks, spray those, and while those are drying, we will come back and start in on these fenders here. And yeah, hopefully we can get a lot done today. And here in Utah right now, we only have maybe a week left of even 60-degree weather, so time is definitely of the essence here. We've got to get these parts prepped up, cleaned up, and get them into epoxy here. So we got a whole lot of work to do, guys, and I've wasted a whole lot of time talking. Enough of that, let's get to work. Alrighty guys, so it's the next day out here and we made some huge progress over the weekend. I feel like we're a little bit ahead now, which is a very, very good feeling because I'm kind of panicking with these temperatures changing here in Utah so rapidly, and we're gonna have to call an audible here in just a second, as I'll explain. But we went through, we wire wheeled all the parts, the doors, the fenders, the hood hinges. We've still got some other pieces we can do yet, but we got those major parts done. We got them sprayed in epoxy, and overall they turned out great. They turned out really, really good. I did look it up through AMD on their website. These fenders actually run about 900 bucks plus freight. So expect another 150, 200 bucks on top of that. So pretty steep. I mean, you definitely pay for what you get in terms of quality, but was able to thankfully save these. We did quite a bit of repairs. That driver's side does have a little bit of an issue next to the headlight bucket there, but it's gonna need to be body worked regardless. There's really not a way to get in there to kind of pull that thing out. So we're gonna go ahead and send that on to body the way that it is. Now, with the temperatures dropping, I reached out to my blaster to say, hey man, is there any way you can get in sooner? He's like, yeah, no problem, I can get you in sooner. Well, I wasn't expecting for him to come back and tell me I'll be there in the morning to blast your car. So this car would be just fine to go ahead and throw it straight into blast the way that it is. Not worried about it. However, there are some repairs that I would love to do now, so that way when the car is blasted, I can focus my time on prepping it for paint instead of cleaning up welds, cleaning up little holes or pinholes, different things. Like we've got some window channels and some door jam stuff we have to do. Probably gonna be some issues exposed on the bottom of that seat pan in a few places, but it's all fixable. It's just the time. And unfortunately, I don't have too much time before the temperatures really, really drop here. And we're in the 30s, I think, by the end of this week. So I can't be playing around out here. We need to get this thing rolling and get it into epoxy, because we can do the QA1 suspension work. We can do the engine work with putting in the Gen 3 Hemi. We can do all of that, of course, when it's cold out here. Not a big deal, but we want to get these issues resolved. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to just run a wire wheel, and we're just going to clean up all this loose crap that's all over the bottom of this. You know, we've got our holes from our factory trim and stuff like that. Actually, this door jamb looks in really, really good shape. I think it's just peeled paint and a little bit of scale on there, not a big deal. Even right here at the front of the rockers, you can see it's just scale. Got a whole bunch of boogered up factory undercoating there. The blaster should take that off. But we'll go ahead, we'll cut these door bars off. We don't need those anymore. Frankly, I've been tripping over those for the last few weeks for no reason, because we had the floors in. We didn't really need those to be in there. But yeah, we're just gonna be cleaning up, tidying things up, and whatever we get done tonight, we'll be that much further ahead, and we'll be able to focus much more on just getting this thing ready to get in epoxy, which I really, really want to have happen in the next 48 hours. So thankfully my man T-Bone's out here tonight. He's going to give me a hand, and we're going to start rocking this thing out and have this thing on a trailer by the end of tonight so we can blast it in the morning. So let's get it done. So at this point in the video, you guys are supposed to see the car get strapped to the trailer, towed outside. My good friend Bryce from Innovative Sandblasting did an amazing job. He came right here to my house, did it in my driveway again, this time in the morning when people were at work. So yeah, he did an amazing job at the top and the bottom of the car, got it back into the shop, prepped it out, got it sprayed into epoxy actually that night. We knocked it all out in one day, and it turned out really, really good. Unfortunately, I don't know how it happens, but sometimes my footage gets corrupted and I'm missing a whole bunch of data. In this case, I'm missing that entire chunk of data there. So, but yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll jump straight ahead to when the car was in epoxy. Alrighty, you guys, well, another late night last night, but we got this car completely in epoxy. I'm so excited. What do you think, dude? Looks good. He's ready to go. We've got a couple parts left to epoxy yet with the deck lid, also with a brand new hood. And then I've also got some prep work that I'm gonna do on the inside of the quarter panels for the lizard skin that's gonna go on today. So we're hoping to get all that done. We do have a thermometer finally set up out here. It's about 55 degrees out right now. So we're gonna be shutting the doors here in a bit, cranking the heat, and bringing everything up to temp here so we can get spraying. But let's take a quick walk around the car. I mean, it looks like it was dipped in white paint. Got great coverage. The paint flowed fantastic. I like to chase myself around a little bit with a flashlight, so that way, you know, look in all the areas just to make sure we've got great coverage everywhere. And you'd be hard pressed to find a single square inch of this car that's not covered in epoxy. Pretty confident we got that done. But now that it's all in white, now you can really see the areas that we're gonna have to go back and fix. Now that may seem completely back-asswards to a lot of you guys, but with a car that's been freshly blasted like that, it's completely raw, very susceptible to surface or flash rusting, surface rusting, whatever you want to call it. And then I'd be really in trouble. I'd have to go back, clean the entire thing, and it kind of defeats the purpose of even blasting the car. So getting it all into epoxy now really makes the repair areas stand out. Got holes right here. We've got some areas down here. And you know what we'll do from here, guys? We'll just take a Scotch-Brite on a roll-lock disc, and we will clean those areas up, do the repairs, isolate the repairs to a very small area, prep those out, and you know, get those in epoxy. And that stuff blends really, really well. You won't be able to see anything like that. And of course, the bodywork's gonna go over the top of everything anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But probably the bigger repair we've got some pinholes, a bunch of pinholes right here in that rear seat pan. We're probably gonna have to put a big patch right there. But the rest of this looks pretty good. We do have some lead that's popped in a couple areas, so we may actually burn that out and throw some new lead in there. But looks pretty sweet. Window channel work to do, but honestly, guys, this is easy stuff. It's not too big of a deal. Saw this one right here. Again, just gonna cut that out, put a new piece in, be good as new. So enough talking. We got a lot of work to do today, dude. So I'm gonna get him started prepping out these panels, and then I'm gonna get working on the quarters, trying to get them lizard skinned. And yeah, we'll keep on making progress, but hopefully we'll get all the panels shot in color today with the exception of the quarters, because we still obviously have to weld those on. So let's get it done. Alrighty, you guys, so we've got all of our panels sprayed, and as you can see behind me, I've already got the car together. Now, I will admit the last video clip that you just saw was taken about 2 weeks ago. I've taken the time to knock out all of the rust repair, panel gap, do everything to this car to essentially have it at a stage where it's ready to start fitting and welding on our rear quarter panels. Now, the reason I did that, to be totally blunt and honest with you, I've done numerous videos on window channels. I think I have 5 or 6 videos on channels, how to do all the little patch pieces and how to make it all blend out, look smooth, look like it's never been cut on whatsoever. You guys probably saw that area down there that was a mess. But we got all of that work done, guys. We've already cleaned everything up. We've shot the car in epoxy on 2 different occasions now. And yeah, we've made a whole lot of progress here in the last few days. I mean, we even have our striker in. We've got brand new door seals on these doors. And as I mentioned, we've got our gaps looking super, super good around this car, and everything is fitting fantastic. I haven't had to actually even cut on the dang body lines or, to fit our gaps or anything. Now, I probably have, I bet you 5 or 6 hours just in perfecting the gaps on this car and making adjustments here or there. But it's come out really, really good, and we are well within factory specs, definitely within tolerance of, still making adjustments and pulling things in some different directions. But at this stage, I feel very comfortable that if we close our doors, we line up our quarter panels, we get our body lines across the top matching, we get the body lines down here also matching all the way across there, and then most importantly, the reason we wait to weld these on is that we've got to make sure that we've got good seamless transitions between the door to the actual lineup of this rear quarter. But we are at a stage now where we can start fitting and we can start sectioning and welding on the rear quarter panels. Now, a couple words of advice here. I mentioned it's already got door seals on it. I like to buy 2 sets of door seals here, guys. We put one on during the bodywork stage, we put one on in the final assembly stage. And the reason being is that your door seals are thick, new, okay? And they are gonna make your door stick out further, which is in turn going to make your quarter panel stick out slightly farther than what you'd think, okay? If I didn't put on door seals right now, I could most likely have the striker adjusted wrong. I would shut it, it would fit tighter into the body, and then I would weld on this quarter panel, make it permanent, put my door seals on, and then my door would actually stick out further than the quarter panel. And at that stage, either you're gonna have to do a whole bunch of body work to get it to fit, you're gonna either cut your brand new seals, or you may even have to run without any body seals to get it to fit because your quarter panel is now welded too far into the car. So ask me how I know all that stuff. I've done it wrong before, okay guys? So learn from my mistakes so you don't make your own. But we've got everything pushed back now so we can work on that door fitment. And yeah guys, everything's all prepped out. It's ready to go. All of it is in weld through primer underneath. We've got our lizard skin on our quarter panels already. And really, once we push this thing back forward, we do a little bit of tweaking. We're gonna put a whole bunch of clamps around this whole thing. But my goal tonight, at least, is to get both these rear quarter panels lined up, clamped in, and ready to start cutting and burning in. Because in this case, we're not lining it up to meet with a sail panel at the top here. We are going to be sectioning it into this convertible sheet metal that's up on the top here. Now, they don't reproduce this stuff. That's why it's left in place just as it is. And I'll be honest with you, this is really, really solid, really good metal. I already went ahead, cut out, replaced a lot of this window channel. It's all looking fresh, brand new up there. But yeah, guys, anywhere around here that we're gonna have to cut, I'll show you guys. We'll screw it all together. I went ahead, you can see this line right here, because our body line on the top of the quarter panel right there, we wanna make sure that that lines up at the peak of that line before we do any cutting. But really, with this thing fitting tight into the window channel like that, I'm guessing that once I clamp it in, it's gonna be damn near spot on as it is. And at that point, we can put some screws in here across the top, and we'll use the grinding wheel, cut both pieces of metal, so that way we have a perfect 16th inch gap. We'll use some panel clamps that I'll show you. And yeah, we can then start tacking this thing in and making it permanent. So, kind of threw out a word salad, guys. I'm excited, as you can tell. But I'm gonna shut up, I'm gonna quit talking. We're gonna set the camera up. And you excited to get this thing Yeah. All right, let's get it done. Alrighty, guys, real quick, wanted to share a few things with you. Number one, we've got the top of our quarter panels welded on, and the finish is pretty seamless. Very little body work needed to make those look like they've never been touched, which has been the goal of this entire video. But, you know, I've been harping on fitting the hood to the fenders to the doors, which then are going to tell you where your rear quarter panels are going to be lined up. And, you know, trying to think 2-3 steps ahead all the time with this. Now, as I started to weld, you know, down that trunk channel, get down here to the back, and we've got to weld it in all the way around the tail panel here and then work our way back to the front. But you know, looking at this now and fitting these taillight extension pieces here, I've had to make quite a few adjustments. If I would have just gone in and welded it where it was, I would have big gaps. You would not have kind of the uniformity to the panel. You know, obviously you can still see the lip here, but I've gone ahead, I've adjusted this so that way it all pulls into shape really, really nice. And really all I needed to do to get that was to open up the 4 mount holes to give me a little bit more flexibility there. But really to get the panel to lay flat also, you know, ended up clamping it around the quarter panel to the tail panel here, and I actually put a block of wood on the top to kind of do it all uniformly and flat. You go clamping too hard onto this, you're going to end up with dimples all the way around it, and that's bad news. But yeah, I was able to kind of play with this a little bit, get it certainly within body range here, and overall, guys, very happy with the fitment. It does not just fall into place like that. You have to fit check everything with these cars. You know, and we fit the taillight extension pieces here. We've also fit the deck lid all the way around, just making sure that everything is still, you know, coming back together the way that it really needs to. So, but the rest of this, pretty straightforward. Once we get it down across the back there, we'll do kind of a final fit check on the extensions, and really at that point, guys, we can then work our way down the door all the way around and repeat everything on the passenger side. This takes so long, and honestly it would have been a whole lot easier with the coupe and even letting the seams compared to the time it takes just to get everything right with this. But very, very happy with how everything is lining up so far. So enough talking, guys. Let's keep going and let's finally finish up this job. Alrighty guys, so before I weld this thing in permanent, wanted to share a couple quick little tips and tricks here. And even just going from the driver's side to the passenger side, my strategy with doing this has changed up quite a bit. And honestly, the fitment is even cleaner than the other side, and I feel like the other side turned out pretty badass to begin with. But first and foremost, and probably the scariest part of this entire job, is how do you section in the existing convertible parts in with the beautiful Auto Direct quarter panels. So I haven't made any additional cuts on the quarter side aside from cutting the sail panel part of this thing off. It is exactly how it was. Now, I feel earlier in the video I mentioned that I was going to lay the panels on top of each other, cut through both of them. I feel like that's a much better option for replacing like the face skins of panels, okay? That's why you saw some of the drill holes in the other panel that I filled in. But on this side, I opted for just laying it over the top. We clamped everything down. We got our lines matched up beautiful. We got our door gaps lined up good. And then I ended up just tracing the edge. Ended up cutting that on the car side, on the gray side here. And then very, very slowly kind of work that back, continue to work that back until we were left with beautiful 16th inch gaps here. And our fancy dancy Harbor Freight clamps here hold these into place perfectly. And it's a very slow process welding this in, guys. You want to keep that dang heat out of the panel as much as you can. So you got to jump around here, use a lot of compressed air, do whatever you have to do. But what you do not want to do is introduce a ton of heat. You will not be stacking dimes on these panels, okay? But you just got to slowly, progressively keep on tacking and keep on moving around, keep that heat down, and you will not have any warpage issues. And honestly, going into this, that was my biggest fear, is just with sectioning this in, especially across a quarter panel, very susceptible to warping, and it can get away from you pretty quick. But after tracing that out, cutting it out, beautiful fitment here, guys. Our door gaps line up absolutely killer. A couple things that made this easier, you can kind of see right there, made some slits in the panel so that way your quarter panel can then be, you know, kind of manipulated in that direction as it sits onto the car like that. And honestly, a block of wood and a plastic mallet really help, you know, convince this panel to take shape and to get good fitment on your door gaps. Really the rest of the panel, guys, I mean, having a lift is definitely a luxury for this. I'm able to use those screw jacks, push up from the bottom, get that fitment to the rocker super, super tight. But we've got this whole thing pinned in and it is essentially ready to go at this point. Of course, we also fit our taillight extensions that I was just harping on you guys about, and really everything is pinned into place, ready to weld in. And this is officially the last of the metalwork on this car. So we're gonna get this thing completed and then also do a quick round of body work on it, spray this thing in epoxy, and man, let's finish up this video. Alrighty guys, well we're gonna go ahead and jump ahead quite a bit, and by jump ahead I mean like to the end. Okay, this thing is ready to put into epoxy primer, and you know, I find that a lot of you guys really don't like the bodywork videos. They're boring, they're slow. I get it. It is boring and slow to do, let alone video and walk you through it and everything. I promise once we get back on the CUDA this winter, we're gonna do some dedicated bodywork videos, very detailed, so just hold off till then. But I will give you guys kind of high level overview here. Now this thing is ready to paint with epoxy as it is right now. I've gone ahead, we've 80 gritted the entire panel, so we've got a nice tooth in the entire thing. We waxed and greased it. I already applied my pre-treatment wipes here, and I even tacked it. Hell, I even have paint mixed up, ready to go. So we're fired up, and yeah, we're about to paint this thing up. So went ahead, we hid our lead seam really nice here. I like to use that fiberglass reinforced body filler to cover all the welds and things like that. It sands out really nice, makes the whole thing very smooth, and then just as some added reassurance over the top, covered it in the 3M Platinum Plus body filler. Don't waste your time and money on Bondo brand, guys. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you guys may be partial to it. Spend the extra money on the 3M. You will never use Bondo brand again, okay? I will show that and show you the differences in the bodywork video that'll come up later. But down here where the Dutchman panel meets this quarter panel area here, had to do quite a bit of work to blend these two together, and then also, you know, sanding out some of that lead that was in there previously. So cleaned that all up, replaced it. It is good as new and smooth as glass. The back of the quarter panels here, again, you can see, you know, where I've used that fiberglass there. I just want these panels to be completely slick, to look really nice, and you know, it just helps it look like a professional job. Also do it, you know, I put that fiberglass here along the edges of the seams, and you know, anywhere that you grind down welds, it's always good to put that over the top, and you'll have a nice smooth finish in the end. But this thing turned out really good, you guys. I cannot wait to see this in one color here. And you know, I would consider this, let's call it roughed out in bodywork. Okay, this panel's not been blocked. You're gonna see probably little dings here and there, right? So it is gonna leave here from my house and go to a body shop where they're gonna do all that. They're gonna have a team working on it. They're gonna block this entire car, make it absolutely laser straight. But better work that you guys do in metal, the lesser amount of work that your body shop will have to do for you, and they'll appreciate that, believe me. So enough talking, guys. I'm ready to wrap up this video. Tell you what, there's probably 60 to 80 hours or so. I'll add it up at the end to tell you guys how much we did. But this has been about a month's worth of work to get this thing done. So enough talking. Let's get this paint gun rolling, and let's see this thing in color. Alrighty guys, well after 3.5 months, I'm happy to say the metalwork on this car is officially done. Looking at the difference of this car from the beginning of the video till now, I rolled in a, pretty rusty, original paint for the most part, undercoating. It was ugly, it'd been sitting for a long time. We got that all blasted off. We've got brand new quarter panels sectioned in. We've got absolute money door gaps in the front and the back. We've got our fenders fixed up. We've got our hood fit up. Everything in this car turned out so good. Never mind the trash pile underneath of the car right there. But honestly, guys, this is some of the best metal work that I've ever personally turned out, and I cannot be happier with how everything came together on this car. Now looking at the back here, really the scariest part of this entire thing, like I said earlier, sectioning in those quarter panels, cutting into the top and everything. But when you take a step back and you look at it, you really can't see where they've been sectioned in. The body lines line up really, really well, going on the top of the quarter down, and overall turned out fantastic. One thing that I did have to do that I did not record, I did gap the trunk. So the same process that I used on the CUDA, with fitting the doors and everything, we have a perfect 3/16 inch gap all the way around the entire trunk opening, and that took a very long time to do. I'll just tell you that, because I ended up basically having to cut the perimeter of the trunk almost the entire way around. So the owner will have to use this trunk or he will have to spend a lot of time fitting up a new trunk, but this one's in really good shape. It shouldn't be an issue. And the fitment is better than what the factory ever put on this car. Looking at the driver's side here, same thing, guys. It turned out really, really good. Body lines are great. The seam looks fantastic. And man, I'm at a loss for words. That could be because I'm exhausted. This is probably 60 to 80 hours worth of work over the last month or so. And granted, I get to do this on mostly nights and weekends. But yeah, a lot of work, guys. So appreciate you guys sticking around at least this far in the video, but most importantly, thank you guys for hanging out for a couple weeks and waiting for this video to come out. And tell me what you guys think in the comments. This thing is going to be so killer. Now, quick change of plans. You may ask kind of what's coming next here. So the owner did go ahead and order the engine parts to fit the Gen 3 Hemi with the QA1 suspension in this car. Unfortunately, a lot of those things are back ordered to like January. So this thing is just going to get the suspension in my shop, and then it is going to roll its ass on out of here and go on to body and paint and all the other fun stuff that it's going to get. So I will not be putting the engine into the car, unfortunately, but that means we're like a week away from this thing rolling out of here. So the next video will be the full front and rear QA1 suspension on this thing. It's gonna be badass. We're gonna make this car a roller. It's gonna sit low, and gosh, can't wait to see this thing on wheels again. So thanks again, guys, for watching. If you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button, and I promise it's not gonna be a month before you see another video. Take care. I'll see you again real soon.